What is going on, guys? I am Lane Plummer. This is my YouTube channel, and this specifically is my 2001 Jeep Cherokee. If you've been around for a while and have seen the build, I appreciate you for sticking around for another video. It has been a huge project. We have swapped in Dana 44s, put on 35s. On top of those Dana 44s, we ended up pulling the motor and stroking it. A full rebuild, and today we're going to talk about the cost and different options that you can do. First things first, I just want to talk about engine swap / refresh options. So obviously your cheapest option and the least amount of work is going to be just a standard bore, standard stroke rebuild on it. So we're talking fresh pistons, potentially fresh rods, but mostly your bearings and gaskets. Pro there is that it is usually going to be cheaper. There's a little bit less work, so you can get it done faster. Your Jeep isn't going to be down quite as long. And you know that everything's going to fit 100% because you're just replacing the worn parts with fresh parts. The con is that it is still a significant amount of work for essentially zero power upgrade. You might get your power back, but it's not going to be anything significant. The second option is a stroker kit. I figure if you're building your engine anyways, you might as well try to upgrade it, and everything's torn apart already, so it's just a cost that you are taking. There is two ways you can do the stroker kit. The first option, which is your cheaper option, is going to be using all of your old parts, but updating your rotating assembly, getting new gaskets, seals, all that sort of stuff. I figure while I'm already in there and have everything torn apart, and usually when you need an engine refresh, it's because your parts are starting to fail. So the better option, in my opinion, is to actually replace everything. Go in, make sure everything is new, all new internal parts, all new rotating assembly, but also all new accessories and sensors as well. The third option, which is obviously the most expensive and the most time in labor and sourcing parts, research, all that sort of stuff, is going to be an engine swap. And in my case, it is both too costly and too time consuming to make it worth it in my scenario. This thing is a daily driver for me. I don't need tons of power, but the options are endless. There are a few kits out there to swap Chevy LS motors in here, a V8 power plant. There's a TDI swap. Really, your options are only limited by how technically capable you are and how much fabrication you want to do. But with an LS, not only are you going to have to swap the engine, but you're going to have to swap essentially a whole bunch behind that, from exhaust to radiator to potentially engine adapters to your transmission, so on and so forth. So the big con there is time and money. I've got my handy dandy little sheet right here, and I've broken it up into 5 parts. First is going to be your specialty tools. Second is going to be your internal parts, then labor, accessories, sensors. For specialty tools, these are assuming that you already have your standard mechanics tools: ratchets, wrenches, screwdrivers. Your big two are going to be engine hoist at $200 and engine stand at $80. All right, the biggest expense of the stroker build is going to be your internal parts. I have the rotating assembly, which I kind of built as a kit. Clegg engine, it was $1,625, and that is piston, rods, and your crankshaft. And the small parts do add up quite a bit. Cam bearings, $42, camshaft, $184, timing set, $60, lifters, $55, push rods, $24, rockers, $90, oil pump, $56, freeze plugs were $15, rear main seal was $15, gasket set was $135, oil filter gaskets were $3, head gasket was $32, harmonic balancer was $43, spark plugs were $50, injectors were $150, head bolts were $34, and thermostat was $14, for a total of $2,627. The expense that is going to be the biggest change between your build and my build, and really a build now and a build in 5 years, is going to be the labor from the machine shop. I got mine done by Larry's Machine here in Tucson, Arizona. It was the best that I could get for a reputable shop. To clean and Magnaflux the block was $100. Bore and hone the block was $225. Decking the block was $95. Cam bearings and freeze plugs was $75. Balance of the rotating assembly was $125, and to deck the head was $95, for a grand total of $715. Fourth expense is your accessories, so everything on the outside of the block. I got a starter for $143, new alternator for $102, a belt for $27, serpentine belt pulley for $14, water pump for $26, and I got a throttle body from Boosted Engineering for $230, for a total of $542. Finish out the build sheet is your sensors. In my opinion, pretty important to make sure that you're not running into issues down the line. It just was a maintenance item that I chose to do on the front end as opposed to tossing old sensors back in. Coolant sensor was 18, TPS was 33, IAC was 48, cam sensor was 29, crank sensor was 40. I got all new O2 sensors for 113. IAT for 15, PCV was 8, oil pressure 22, and my map sensor was 53. Now you can definitely shop around for anything on this list. I got it all from Rock Auto. They seem to have the best prices, and if you order all of it at one time, shipping really isn't too bad either. Every once in a while they also offer 5%. The sensor total ended up being $379 well spent. All of those added up, I ended up spending $4,543. I've been driving this Jeep for the last 2 weeks. It was totally worth it. I have my power back, I have my torque back. In fact, I have plenty more torque that you can actually feel in the seat of your pants. Absolutely worth it if you're already building the engine. That being said, I went ahead and added up the total. If you're wanting to do the cheaper Strucker option, just replacing your rotating assembly, bearings, seals, and gaskets, your internal parts are going to be $2,067, and doing it the right way, getting the full list of machine work done, is $715 for a total of $2,782. It's less than all new parts, but going to have to end up taking apart this engine sooner than you would like to have to replace big maintenance items. It's well worth it to get all new everything and have a brand new engine in your Jeep that you don't have to worry about at all, unless you build it incorrectly. Anyways, thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. If you did, I am absolutely happy with the engine build. It was really fun to build it myself. It was really fun to drive it. I plan to continue to drive it. I plan to keep on working on the Jeep, so thank you so much. Next up, I believe, is going to be notch fender flares, and I am so excited for that to wrap up this phase of the Jeep build. I'll see you on the next one.